Make.com has just launched their own AI agent, and in this video, we are going to be demoing this exact system. And then from there, I'll just be showing you exactly how I built this out from scratch. I will also give you my opinion on the highly controversial Make.com versus n8n debate, and also just point out which one I think is best and what I'll be using for myself. Now, this is in a direct response to n8n, which you should know launched their own AI agent long ago. So just let me know what you guys think about this new AI agent. It's pretty interesting to see another platform come out with something that was previously n8n's moat, if you will. But let me show you guys this exact system that we have built out. Right here, we just have a watch private channel messages. So if we come into my Slack, what I've done is I've just created essentially an assistant. So it's going to be able to perform different types of tasks for me autonomously. So what we're going to do is we're just going to connect watch private channel messages and connect that to our Make AI agents node or tool, whatever you want to call it, and then also to send a message back. So what we're doing is we're actually connecting this to a few different sub workflows. Now, before we move any further, let me show you what this actually looks like. So this app we can see already right here, but if you just search AI agent, you'll see there's only one option. We're very limited. So this is a beta, and there is only certain accounts that are going to get access to this system. So I actually had to hop on a client's account myself. My main account didn't have it. My second account didn't have it. So it did take a few times to find out which one of my Make.com accounts actually had access to the beta. So feel free to just make a few different accounts if you have to, make a new organization, whatever it may be, to make sure that you can find access to this tool. And if you're not in a huge rush, then just wait a few weeks, because I'm sure they'll be rolling out with the more stable versions and giving access to more and more people as the time comes on. So what we have here is we just have one app, which is going to be the run an agent. Now, as I told you already, we are going to be connecting this to different tools, to different sub workflows, whatever. So we can see right here in this is we're connecting it to get Airtable records. We're connecting it to creating Google Calendar events and also creating different tasks. 3 different tools, 3 different functions that we want this to be able to perform. So we can see that we have the configuration up at top. I'll show you that in a second. There's really not a whole lot of options when it comes to being able to customize these. It pretty much just has everything that it would need, similar to n8n, which, I might be referencing a lot because that is what I'm used to. That is what I'm sure you guys are used to, is building agents and your AI systems within n8n. But I think, of course, it's good to test out different tools and different platforms because, me, myself, I actually came from using Make.com first and then switched over to n8n for various different reasons. But besides that, we do have some similar features. So the thread ID, this is just going to be like the session ID, capturing the message and, the memory of our agents. So if we say like, hello, my name is Nick, in one message, maybe 5 messages later, it's going to be able to see that my name is Nick still and still call me that name. We have some additional system instructions and user input that we can put right here. But really quick, I just want to show you guys how this would actually work. So now let's just try out a different function. Now let's just say I need you to create a task for me to write an apology email to our client. All right, let's just send this off. Let's go back into Make and let's run this once. Again, for different platforms, there is going to be examples where it'll just run automatically and it won't have to just run this once like I am doing now. But in another case, you can have it in Slack, at least have it run every single minute, and then it's going to be doing it automatically. So I won't have to press this button. But I know with Telegram and platforms like that, or maybe even WhatsApp, you won't have to do this. It's going to actually be a trigger where it's going to trigger instantly. But let's go back into Slack and see what we got. So it says task to write an apology email to our client has been successfully created in the project management board. So let's just go in here. Let's check it out. We can see write an apology email to our client is now in here. We have the status of to do. Pretty cool stuff. We're keeping this pretty bare bones. We also have another tool called the creating Google Calendar events. So let's try this one out as well. Let's go ahead and say, I need you to now create a meeting with Nick at salesdone.ai talking about AI systems. Let's say the start date should be at Saturday, April 12th from 2:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. Okay. I think that should be all the information that we need. We have the duration, start time, end time, and the attendee email. Let's just try to send this off. Let's go into here. Let's make sure it's to run this, and let's go back into here. So I'm actually seeing an error. So it says, thank you for letting me know. If there's anything else that you might need assistance with, feel free to ask. So this is just a little bit buggy. Let's see if we can actually problem solve this right now. So in the beginning node, we have the task to write an apology email to our client has been successfully created. It looks like it's just getting one of the previous inputs, which is not what we want. So I think that might just have to do with the memory. So if we go into our configuration and make sure that the memory is actually set to 1 and make sure that it's not going to be getting any previous messages. We do have it set as 1, but let's try to save this and make sure it's to actually refresh this. And maybe we'll even want to add a wait node right here. So if we add a module, let's do, I think it's called sleep in here. Yeah. So let's wait, let's say just 5 seconds maybe. Let's see if this helps out at all. So let's save this again. Let's go ahead and try running this again. So you can see it was actually just getting a message. It wasn't registering that my latest message was actually the latest message. So maybe we'll want to change the limits to 2. So if we go back into Slack, we can see the meeting about AI systems with Nick has been successfully created for Saturday, April 12th from 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. Awesome. Now, I just want to show you guys how you can actually be building this out for yourself and how you can start using Make.com's AI agents, because they are definitely useful, and it's probably one of the biggest updates that they have came out with within the past, I don't know, maybe 3 months. How do we get started? Well, of course, you want to sign up for a Make.com account. Make sure you have an account that's going to be given access to the beta. You'll see on the left-hand side, it's just going to say beta. Can't miss it. Now, what we want to do is we want to actually add a trigger. So the trigger is going to be the app or the point that's going to start our workflows, our scenarios. We are going to be using Slack, but you can also use Telegram as your trigger. So if you do use Telegram, like I mentioned, you're going to have a more instantaneous trigger. Like it's something that's going to be on demand, and we won't have to wait 1 minute for it to actually start running. Me, I'm just going to continue using Slack because that's the platform I prefer. So go ahead and set up Slack. Next up, you're just going to want to add a module. Apologies if I keep calling it nodes or apps, anything like that, but we're going to add a new module. We're just going to search for make AI agents. We're just going to select run an agent. So I'm actually going to disconnect this, and I'm going to just continue using this other one. So once you click on that, it's actually going to allow you to create a brand new agent. So if you go to create agent, you'll be prompted with something like this. You can give it your own name, whatever you would like to call it. You can also choose the model. So something that you should be familiar with is GPT Turbo 4.0, 4.0 Mini. I'm just going to be using 4.0, and then the system prompt. My system prompt, what I'm saying, is very particular to all the tools that I'm going to be giving it access to. So if I just go into the configuration, I'll show you what I am saying myself. Well, we can see right here, it says you are a helpful assistant who must determine which action to take. Either make a call to the Airtable Get Tasks tool to get all the to-dos / list everything in the project management board, or just call Airtable Create Record tool to create a task / to-do in the project management board. Sometimes this is referred to just as the board, or create a calendar event or meeting with the calendar create tool that you are given access to. Now, if we come up to the top, we can see that we have the agent settings. Let's just open this up real quick. This is what I was showing you earlier very briefly. So we have the agent name, model, max output tokens, recursion limit, and then the iterations from history count. So the max output tokens, I would recommend to keep this relatively limited, because sometimes your agents can slip up, especially because it's in beta. Sometimes they can slip up and maybe run on forever and do more iterations and executions than you would hope for, and just burn through all of your tokens, which obviously we do not want. We're trying to keep costs to a minimum. Now, for the recursion limit, this is just going to be how many times your scenario, your workflows are going to be trying again. So let's say it fails the first time, how many times you want it to reoccur. Within the iterations from history count, this, as I mentioned before, is just going to be your memory. So if we change this to 10, then it's going to get 10 messages back. 20, it's going to get 20 messages back. I think 10 or 5 is probably fine enough. So this is going to be enough to maybe get the name and everything. So let's just leave it as 10 for the time being. Let's go to save this. Let's close this out. Now, if we back up, we have our additional tools. So let's just put a pause on the additional tools, because we're going to have to build out these sub workflows, as we call them first. The sub workflows are just going to be completely different scenarios that we want to build out. The thread ID, this is just going to be our ID from down here. We can see that it's just the client message ID. If you're using something like Telegram, it's going to be very similar. They're probably going to have something called thread ID, message ID, user ID. It's just going to allow the memory to say, okay, well, here's the same ID. So within this ID, I'm going to get the past 5 messages, past 10 messages, whatever. It's going to allow you to actually identify who is who and what's going on. Down here, this is going to be additional system instructions. What I said is you are to analyze the user input and take the necessary actions to fulfill the request. Here's today's date, and then I just provide it with the variable. I say now. I pretty much always like to give my agents access access to this variable because, whether you're getting calendar events, whatever it may be, I think it's just always additive to have this, whatever you're doing. And it's super simple to add. All you have to do is just type out a couple curly brackets and type out now. So down here, I'm a little bit specific because I was running into errors of trying to input details into one of my scenarios. I just said if it's a calendar event you're creating, you must ensure that you are passing the event duration, event start date, and a couple other things. Down here, this is one of the most important steps that you should not forget, is to actually provide the user input into the agent. So we can see right here, I'm just going to type out user input, and then I'm going to input the text. So what I said right here. So we can see, I just have the text. I need you to now create a meeting with, so we can't unfortunately see the rest of the message, but I'm just clicking on this text message right here, and that's going to be the user input. And there's literally not anything else I am changing. I will get into these additional tools in a second, but after that, we're just going to actually create the message, and this is just going to output the message of the agent. So we could see the response from one of our last outputs was the meeting about AI systems with Nick has been successfully created. Within here, we just want to actually put that response in there. It's just literally, if you do a couple brackets, response, or maybe it might be one dot response, it looks like, or you could just click on the response right up at the top. Either one works. Let's just save this. That's essentially the main system that we're going to be building out. That's like the meat of everything. But now what we want to do is we want to actually create the sub workflows. So that's going to be these additional tools right here. So before we actually show you all the descriptions and everything that I put within here, for some reason, one of those descriptions aren't showing up. Maybe they delete after a while. Who knows? I've only been using this for just the few hours that it has been released for, but let's go into our sub workflows, as we're going to call them. So I'm going to close this out. Now, we first have this create Google Calendar event. We also have this create task in Airtable, and the other one is going to be, once this loads up, getting Airtable records. So they're all relatively straightforward. You can add as many as you would like. If you would like to add Gmail nodes where you would like to just send emails to whoever it might be from Slack, then you could do so. So let's start off with this get Airtable records. First thing we're going to be doing is we're just going to add the node or the module that we actually want to start using. So for me, I want to get my tasks from within here. So this is just a sheet within my entire folder in Airtable. If we go back, it's just going to be called a Airtable search records, I believe. We're going to click on that. Now within Airtable search records, we're just going to be using our CRM as the base, of course, and the table. So just make sure you're routing everything properly. Then down here, make sure you're going to output the fields that you actually want to start using. So for me, we don't have to include all these. Maybe just status and task is the only thing that we're going to be needing. Or if you want to, you can add all of them. So maybe if you have like ID and the date on it, then you would want to include all those fields as well. So once we actually run this, I will show you guys really quick, run this module only. We're going to get all of our different tasks. So if we have specific dates within our table, which I don't have right now, but if I were to add a date and maybe this is assigned for Friday, this is assigned for last week, we could then filter all this stuff within our Slack AI system. We could say, hey, I want you to get my tasks from last week instead of only getting tasks for this week, something like that. And you would do that by using this formula. Next up, we're going to be using this tools. And this is just going to allow us to kind of condense everything and put it all into one output. So it's called a text aggregator. So we can see right here, once we open this up, we're going to use the source module. We don't even change this. The row separator, we can have this be a tab, new row, or other. If it's a tab, it's just going to kind of space the outputs. It's not really worth showing you guys, but within the new row, it's going to actually be separated. So things like create voice agent, then below that, it's going to be another row, say write paper tomorrow. I'll show you guys what that looks like in just a second. Let's run this. We can see right here, we have create voice agent for client, write paper tomorrow, and so on. Next up, we're just going to be using a return output. So if we use the add module, we can search up return, and it's just going to be the first one right here. Not a whole lot to mess up right there. So let's go ahead and click on this. You will have to create an output. So if we go to scenario inputs down at the bottom, so this is a relatively new feature that they added, scenario inputs and outputs. We're only going to use the outputs for this specific workflow. So if we open this, all I did was add an item, and I just called this Airtable return records. Now within here, let's see if I can show you a little bit. Maybe I'll have to try creating a new one. Within here, I'm just adding a name. You don't have to add a description. And then we're just going to be choosing the text. So let's go ahead and discard that. Then here, we now see that we have our Airtable return records, and the item one, it's just going to be the text from this tool's text aggregator. If we weren't to use this text aggregator, I'll show you really quick. Delete. Let's try running this. Run anyway. Let's make sure we route all of this properly. Create voice agent. So we can see that there's 10 different bundles, but only one is coming up. So if I were to save this and then run it, it's only going to return just one of them, which is not what we want. So we do have to use use this text aggregator. Sometimes you will have to use an array aggregator. Really depends on what you are passing through your workflows. Next up, we're going to be using the creating tasks within Airtable. So this one's going to be a little bit more simpler. We do have to do something differently, which is providing a scenario input, which I will show you in just a second. So I decided that I want to also add a feature within my AI agents to be able to create tasks within my project management board. So as I showed you in the demo, all we did was just create a simple task. Within here, we're just going to route up our record. So all I did was search up Airtable. We go to create records. That's exactly what I'm using. I routed my table, just project management, and then the task. Before I actually put anything within the task, which is the only input, we'll go down to the bottom once again, and we're going to go to the scenario inputs. Within the input structure, we'll just want to add an item. We already have one called create task, but I'll show you if we add a new item, we can call something like update task. So I'm not even going to input any descriptions or anything. Let me actually save this entire workflow and refresh it because sometimes it doesn't always update right away. All right, well, I will open this up. And if I go within here and we go to this little variable on the far right, we can see we have the update task as a variable now. And this is now going to allow us to actually get these variables and these inputs from our agent. It's going to pass into this completely different workflow. And that's exactly what we're looking for. I'll show you how it works once we're actually routing everything up. So let's get through all of these different sub workflows and building all these out first before I get into that. But don't worry if you guys are confused, just stick around because I will be showing you how it all kind of ties in together. Within the return output, this time I just created a new output called create record underscore output. And I just said your task is now created. So this is going to be static. This text right here, I don't really care if it says, here's the task that you just created because I already know what it's going to say. So I just say something pretty simple and give it that text. Once you are actually finished with building out these different sub workflows, make sure you are saving them first, then enabling them. You will also have to make sure that they are on demand. There is another one. I believe it's just immediately was the other option. Those are going to be the two that will actually allow your systems to be working. Lastly, our other sub workflow is just going to be creating a event calendar. So this one is definitely the most complex, but that's only because we're providing it with more inputs. So this time we are going to be providing it with 5 different inputs. So we have the calendar events. This is just going to be like the summary or the event name. We have the start date, end date, event duration, and event attendees. So these are going to be all the required fields that I need to create a meeting. So within the event name, we can see I have the custom variable here, calendar event, start date. I'm literally just matching all these up with their associated records. It's actually super simple in theory. So we have the duration. This is just going to be, 30 minutes, 1 hour, whatever. Okay. And then we scroll down. What I actually did is event attendees wasn't a normal option for some reason. You have to show the advanced settings, which I don't think should be an advanced setting, but I'm not the creator of n8n. So we have the attendees. I just linked up the event attendees down here. So don't forget that when you are creating any sort of calendar event. Next, I just use a scenario to show the output as your calendar event is now created. So again, if you finish your workflow, make sure it's to actually activate it, put it to on demand, and then save it. After that, let's just link up all of these additional tools. So that's going to be one of your last steps aside from prompting. So the additional tools, we just have 3 different ones to get Airtable records. Let's start with that. What I'm going to be doing is you just go into your add tools right down here. We're going to select our scenario. So we can see down here, get Airtable records is exactly what we're looking for. Within here, if you go into the settings, you could provide some description. So that you could say, use this tool to get tasks from the project management board. Next up, we have the create Google Calendar event. So all I did again was just go to the add tools. Now let's check out the description. Here, I'm saying call this tool to create a meeting or calendar event. You must query an input of event name / about, the start date, end date, attendee, which is going to be the email or the guest, and also the duration. So here I just got a little bit more specific because sometimes the system can get confused. Lastly, we have the create task. So in here, I say use this to create a task or item in the project management board in Airtable. What I would recommend though is be very specific in your agent configuration. So when you are actually building out your agent, you want to make sure that you are providing its core purposes, what you actually want it to do, how it should be working. So that's what I would recommend, is to focus on this actual configuration first, and then you can kind of build out these additional system instructions. First, build out the configuration. If things aren't working based off of, not having enough information here, then you can provide more information in here. But at the very least, you could say you are to analyze the user input and take the necessary actions. So you could say more things like this. If it's a calendar event you're creating, you must ensure that you're passing the event duration, event start date, end date, attendees email, all that stuff. But yeah, that is really it when it comes to actually building out these agents within make.com. So for the time being, they are pretty limited. Me personally, I am still going to stick with n8n myself. I can build agents just a lot faster. I find them to be a lot more practical, and it just makes sense the way that you actually build out those workflows within n8n. There's a lot of different other reasons why I am going to be sticking with n8n myself, but to each his own, and definitely won't knock you if you are going to be continuing with make.com, because there are, of course, pros and cons to using each platform. With make.com, they do have a lot more API connections. So you can easily call more APIs and interact with more softwares. That's not to say that you can't within n8n. You just have to go through a couple extra steps, hook up an HTTP request, which can be time consuming if you're doing it pretty often and trying to hook up all the authorization and everything. It can be just another headache that you may not want to deal with, especially if you're not too technical, which I know a lot of you guys may not be. There is a lot of pros and cons to using make.com and using n8n. I personally think that these agents, they're definitely a step in the right direction, but they're not quite just there yet. I think there is a lot more things that they would have to add to it, even in general, just add to make.com to really compete with n8n in the way that I would hope for when it comes to building out my systems and what actually works for me. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. I know I kept the kind of functionality and the system of what we're building pretty simple and bare bones, but of course, I'm really interested in seeing what you guys build out with this, what your guys' thoughts are again. But in any case, if you guys do want some more tips, tutorials, if you are brand new to using make.com, or maybe you just want to touch up, I do have a bunch of videos earlier in my channel that you would have to scroll down for, going over some different step-by-steps and guides on how to build different systems. So make sure to go check those out if you are interested in continuing to use make.com, because despite what I'm saying about n8n versus make.com, it is a great platform. So I do implore you to check out this agent yourself. And honestly, I'm pretty excited to see what they roll out within the next few months, because I know they definitely have some stuff up their sleeve. With that being said, I really thank you guys for watching this video. If you are interested in content like this, going over different platforms, not just using n8n, and actually exploring different tech stacks, if you guys are interested in that type of stuff, please let me know down in the comments, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.